My name is Emily Turner. I am 17. I live in a small town outside of Cleveland with my mom, my dad, and my little brother Josh. We always did Christmas big. Lights on the house, 2 trees, and Grandma's fruitcake that nobody ate but everyone pretended to love. I used to think our house was safe. I used to think my family loved me. The night it all changed, I was up in my room. I had homework on my desk and a half-empty mug of tea that had gone cold. I was trying to write an essay, but my head kept going back to the sound I had heard an hour earlier. Muffled voices downstairs, hurried, mean. I had crept to the top of the stairs and froze. I could not help listening. "I can't believe she's bringing that to the party," I heard my aunt say. "It's going to be perfect. She deserves to be laughed at." My cousin laughed. "People will eat it up. She'll never live it down." My stomach turned. My mom's voice, low and sharp, cut through. "Just make sure it's tasteful. We don't want Carrie to be the only one who knows. Let it be a surprise. Let her think it's normal. When she sees it, she'll cry. She will be so embarrassed."
They were talking about me.
They were planning to humiliate me at our family Christmas. They wanted a surprise that would make me cry in front of everybody. They were planning something mean and loud and public, the kind of thing people tell each other about later like it's funny. They did not know I was listening. I backed away from the stairs. My hands were shaking. For a long time I sat on my bed and stared at my wall. I tried to pretend I hadn't heard anything, but I couldn't. I felt like a pop balloon. The one person in the world who should have held me, who should have stopped them, had joined them. I told myself I would forget it. I told myself I would go to the party and try to laugh. I practiced smiling in the mirror until my cheeks hurt. I planned to keep my head down, to be small and careful. I even wrote a list of things I would say if someone teased me. "That's not true," I would say. "That's not funny." But the list felt useless. The memory of their voices kept growing heavier in my chest. I kept living the days before Christmas, like someone sleepwalking. I set the table for dinner and tried not to look at the hallway where phones were charging and where their shoes piled up like tiny islands. I heard whispers on the phone sometimes when I walked by, or laughter that dropped when I came near. Josh tried to make me laugh, and I smiled, and then thought of the plan, and the smile turned thin. My dad pretended nothing was wrong. He smiled the way people smile at the news anchor on TV when bad things happen far away. I started to think about why they would do it. I thought about every single thing I had done that could make them hate me. Had I failed a test once? Had I said something at dinner years ago? Had I made a joke that went wrong? The reasons piled up, and none of them made sense. The only thing I knew was this: they wanted to hurt me, and they had a plan. On Christmas Eve, I stayed awake until the house fell quiet. I told myself I would be brave tomorrow, and that maybe it would be smaller than I feared. I went to bed, too tired to cry. I had learned to hold my feelings inside because that felt safer. But that night something else went on inside me. It was like a tiny, hard piece of ice that would not melt. It wanted to do something. The something I did was not loud at first. I took out an old box I had kept since I was little. It had pictures and letters, things from when my mom and I were friends, back when she sang to me at night and called me Sunbeam for no reason at all. I found a photograph of her and me at the county fair, both of us with sticky hands and ice cream on our chins. I held it for a long time. Then a slow plan folded itself into my head. I would not let them make me the punchline. I would not sit there and be the thing they laughed at. But I also did not want to become mean like they were. I wanted to teach them a lesson that did not hurt anyone deeply, but showed them what it felt like to be the target. I wanted them to see themselves from the outside. I started small. I baked cookies the next day. Not because I wanted to be sweet, because cookies are something everyone would expect from me. I wrapped them in bright paper and tied them with red ribbon. I wrote little notes and signed them from Emily. I left them on the counter where they would find them. My hand shook while I wrapped the last one, but I smiled a little when I imagined their faces. On Christmas morning, our house smelled like cinnamon and pine. The living room was full of people. My Aunt Laura smoothed her dress and tapped her nails on the arm of the sofa like a metronome. My cousin Tyler kept checking his phone. There were folded napkins and a tree with more ornaments than one tree should have, enough to hide a small city. I walked in carrying my baking dish like it was a shield. "Emily," my mom cried, all smiles. "You made cookies?" "Yes," I said.
My voice was steady.
I set the dish down and watched. I watched the way they looked at the plate, lips that wanted to take the first one, hands that reached for the nearest cookie. My stomach did a strange flip. It felt like the moment animals know thunder is coming. They ate and hummed and pretended nothing was wrong. A few of them paused to say, "These are good," and my mom smiled like someone showing off knitting she had never made. I sat down and tried to enjoy the small, bright part of the day. Josh showed me a present, and I watched him with soft eyes. For a moment, I felt like everything might be okay. Then Aunt Laura stood up and cleared her throat. The room went quiet like a curtain falling. "We thought we'd do something special today," she said, all sweetness. Her smile looked like a knife now. "We made a slideshow, a small surprise. It's something we all think will bring back memories." My chest tightened.
I knew what that meant.
My heart hit my ribs like someone knocking on a door. "Sit together," my mom said. "We all want to watch." She sounded normal. Her eyes looked past me to the place where Aunt Laura pointed, the sofa near the TV, a place where I always sat. My hands closed into fists and then opened. My fingers wanted to run away. I sat. They dimmed the lights. My cousin connected his laptop and clicked play. The first image was of me at 5 years old, with a Valentine's candy mustache, and the room laughed softly. Then it moved to a school play where I had tripped and the crowd had clapped. It felt like watching old weather. The images came faster. At one point, there was a photo of me crying at a birthday party because my cake fell. Someone laughed, and someone else nudged my mom like it was a private joke. "Emily, is this okay?" my mom whispered. Her hand rested on my shoulder for a second. It felt strange. Her palm was warm, but her eyes looked cold. I forced myself to breathe. I forced myself to smile when the table laughed. Then the pictures changed. The slideshow's music grew lighter, almost playful. I watched as they showed my embarrassment from years before, but it kept getting sharper. There were screenshots of private messages I had never meant to show anyone. There was a letter I had written to my best friend, one I had thought was private. My face went hot. My ears rang. The room was no longer just quiet. It hovered like a held breath. Tyler snorted.
Wow.
She really said that. He pointed at the screen, and people leaned forward to read what I had written in a raw, honest moment months ago. I felt the room closing in. I wanted to stand up and take back the words taped on the screen, but that would just make it worse. Their laughter grew. It was sharp like stones. Then the worst slide came. It was one I had buried so deep I had almost forgotten. A picture from middle school, the one where something happened and I had been crying for days. My stomach dropped. The room quieted for a split second. The slide lingered like a bruise. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my dad drink his coffee like nothing was happening. My mom's mouth was a thin line. Aunt Laura's eyes shone with the kind of triumph that made my skin cold. I felt like I was outside my body, watching someone else on the couch. My hands were in my lap, and my legs did not want to move. People were talking low, and the sound swelled around me like water. I wanted to scream, but there was a small, fierce thing inside me that had been growing since I had first heard them whisper. It would not let me collapse the way they expected. When the last picture faded, there was a pause. A silence that stuck to the air. Then someone clapped. One slow, mocking clap that spread. Laughter followed, cruel and bright. I should have left. I should have run. But I did not. My mouth opened, and words came out calm like ice. "Did you enjoy my gift?" I asked. Time slowed. My mom's hand flew to the phone at her hip. Her face changed in the strangest way, from smug to panic in a breath. She picked it up and dialed fast. "Where are you?" she hissed into the phone, voice sharp and quick. "Where are you right now?" The phone crackled. Her voice got louder. "Where are you? You need to come." I sat very still. My words were small, but steady, and they hung there like a bell. I said them as if I had not planned them, as if they had been an accident, but I had planned everything from the moment I heard them plotting in the hallway. Did you enjoy my gift? Aunt Laura's face changed color. Tyler's laughter died like someone turning off a radio. There was a moment where the whole room listened to my voice and the beat of my heart. My mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Her fingers were white on the phone. I could see the red in her neck. Then she snapped. "Where are you?" A stranger's voice answered on the other end of the line. It was my sister's. No, not my sister. My sister had been away for years. My stepsister, Rachel, who had left town 2 years ago. Her voice, sharp and distant, came through the phone. "I'm at the house," she said. I thought. Before she could finish, my mother cut her off. "Where are you? Where are you right now?" she demanded, more furious than I had ever heard her. Her eyes were on me, as if I had cast a spell. "Are you at home? Are you?" "I am at the party," Rachel said, but her voice had a strange sound, like someone who was trying not to smile too hard. "Where are you, Anna? Where are you?" My mom's face went red. "Where are you?" she shouted. The room turned to watch, like it had been waiting for a scene in a play. I kept my voice very calm. I kept my face still. The words were small but loud in the way that matters. "Did you enjoy my gift?" The phone went quiet on the other end for a second. Then a sound came that sent a cold thrill through me. Someone in the background at the other end, my mom's voice on speaker, now laughed. Not a small laugh. A full, bubbling laugh that sounded like victory. I felt something open inside me. I felt like a door that had been stuck with rust finally swinging. My mom's voice grew louder and more furious. "Where are you?" she asked again, like she could drag the answer out with force. "Where are you? Why are you not here? Why didn't you?" My calm voice answered the silent part of the room, the part that could not see the truth. "Did you enjoy my gift?" There was a hold. A beat where the whole living room listened to the thin sound of my breath. My aunt, who had been smiling moments before, now stared like she had seen a ghost. Tyler looked pale. Josh stared at me wide-eyed, not understanding but feeling the change like static on the skin. My dad put his hand on his face and closed his eyes a second. My mom took a step back. Her hand flew to her mouth. She said something sharp into the phone, and then slammed it down as if the phone itself had done something wrong. There was a rustle of seats. A tumble of whispered words. The laughter had gone. I had spoken. The room had heard me. But what I had not said was what I had done. And I would not say it. Not now. My voice was still calm when I stood. I walked out of the living room like a person who knew where she was going. My feet did not tremble. I walked past the tree and the plates. I could feel eyes on me like a crowd at a stadium watching a player take a penalty kick. I kept my head up. When I reached the hallway, my mom grabbed my arm. Her hold was like iron. Her face was wet. "Emily," she cried. What did you do?" I smiled, small and steady. "Did you enjoy my gift?" I said again, softer this time, as if it were a simple question you ask at dinner. Her breathing hitched. "You can't." She choked on the words, then looked at my hands as if she expected to find something there. "You can't be serious." I did not answer. I let her wonder. I let the room wonder. For a second, I thought I saw something like remorse flicker in her face, and then she clenched her jaw and looked away, like she was trying to protect something fragile inside her that she did not want to break. That is where this part of the story stops. The laughter had turned into a question. The question was mine, and it hung between us like a light over a pond. My mom stood there, furious and shocked and scared, calling someone on the phone who could not fix what I had done or what I had seen. The house smelled like cookies and pine, and the air felt heavy and raw. Later that night, everyone would talk in hushed voices. They would say my name like it was a rumor. They would pretend they were shocked, then angry. But for now, we were all frozen on the same frame. They did not know everything. I did not want them to. I wanted them to feel the inside of their own medicine, to taste for a moment what it felt like to be the target. I wanted them to know that what you build in the dark will one day be seen in the light. the story did not end there. It was only the first crash of thunder. There were smaller, quieter moments that came before and after. Times I pretended to laugh, times I handed out cookies like nothing had happened, times I sat in my room and felt my heart race until I thought it would break. There were also other things I had done in silence, things I had set in motion without telling anyone. I had left a stone at the bottom of a river, and one day the river would carry the stone where it needed to go. But for now, the house was quieting down. People were whispering and clutching napkins and setting down cups. My mom stood in the hallway and looked at me like she had seen a stranger. The Christmas lights outside blinked on. The tree glittered. The fruitcake waited on a side table, untouched. I walked to my room and closed the door behind me. I sat on the floor and leaned my back against the door. My hands were still. My heart was loud. I thought about the photograph of my mom and me at the fair, and I remembered how her laugh used to sound like a bell. I did not hate her. I hated what had happened, and I hated that they had thought making me small would make them big. Under my bed, I kept the old box with the letters. I slid my hand into the darkness and felt the paper. I held it like a map. The map told me the rest of the plan, the quiet and careful things. The plan would unfold later, in a way that nobody expected. For now, the living room still held the echo of my voice and a very small question that cracked through a lot of things. I lay down on my bed and watched the light through the curtains. I thought about the next day and the next, and how I would move like a shadow through rooms of people who had once been my fortress and were now the place I had to cross. I thought about kindness and how easy it is to take. I thought about empathy and how few of us practice it. I thought about revenge and how not all revenge is fire and broken things. Some revenge is a mirror. Some revenge is a question that makes people look at themselves. Outside, carolers sang. The tune was soft and familiar. Inside, the house buzzed with half-truths. I closed my eyes and heard my mother's voice again, angry and small, on the phone. I heard my own voice, small and steady, asking a question. Did you enjoy my gift? Tomorrow would bring more. People would ask questions and lay blame. They would look for who had done what. But I was ready. I had learned that being quiet does not mean being weak. Sometimes being quiet was the kind of power that made people hurry and drop the things they did not want seen. The last thing I did before sleep was tuck the picture from the fair back into the box. I pressed my hand to the photo. For a moment, I let myself remember a softer time. Then I set my jaw and prepared for what I had to do next. Outside, the tree lights blinked on and off. Inside, a family sat stunned, and a plan that had lived in whispers was starting to crack. The next event would be loud. The next event would change the way we all saw each other. The next event was coming, and when it hit, it would leave everyone holding pieces of the truth they had helped make. After I closed the door to my room, the house sounded like someone had pressed pause on a movie. Downstairs, voices moved in short bursts. I could hear my dad clearing his throat. I could hear Aunt Laura whispering to someone. I could hear Josh ask if he could have another cookie, and my mom answer without looking at him. The ordinary sounds felt wrong, like a puzzle with a piece turned the wrong way. I did not sleep much that night. My mind kept replaying faces. The way Aunt Laura's smile had turned into something hard. The way Tyler's laughter had cut like glass. The way my mom had grabbed the phone like she could drag a different answer out of it. I thought about the photograph of us at the fair. Her laugh used to sound free and bright. Now it sounded like someone carrying something heavy. I got out of bed before dawn. The house was quiet. I moved like a shadow, careful of the creaky floorboard in the hallway. I went to my desk and opened the old box. The letters felt warm with memory, and I ran my fingers over the edges like the paper might tell me what to do. I knew some of them would say things that made my mom kind and soft. I had to remember that she had been kind once. That thought kept me from turning mean. I had planned small steps, things that would show them how it felt to be watched and judged.
But I also wanted them to have a chance to change.
I did not want to burn bridges. I wanted a window to open so they could see themselves. If they chose not to look, then I would close the window. If they looked and felt sorry, I wanted them to know how to say sorry and mean it. First, I checked my phone. I had left my phone on the couch downstairs during the slideshow. That was on purpose. I had recorded the whole thing. I sat on the floor and listened to the recording. Their voices sounded louder and closer on the audio. My aunt's laugh was higher than I remembered. My mom's whisper sounded small and sharp. There was a moment when someone said a name I had never heard them use, not my name, and my stomach flipped. The recording had more than just jokes. It had secrets wrapped in jokes. I made copies of the recording on a tiny flash drive. I did not plan to post it online. I planned to use it in a way that would not destroy anyone but would make them face what they had done. I thought about putting it in the mailbox with no return address. I thought about leaving it in the car under the seat. I scrapped those ideas. They felt like traps. I wanted the lesson to come from truth, not from fear. Then, I took out the slideshow flash drive from Aunt Laura's laptop. It had been plugged in and left on the coffee table near the TV. While everyone was busy with coffee and conversation, I had slipped downstairs and switched it with a different flash drive. The one I put in did not have pictures of me. It had pictures of the family, the ones you do not put in a slideshow. It had faces that looked small because they were caught in private moments. It had messages that people sent when they thought no one would read them. It had proof that the family had said mean things about more than just me. I had added the recording at the end. I did not do it to humiliate them publicly. I did it to make them see. I wanted them to watch themselves and feel the strange shame of being the one who had laughed. I wanted them to feel that drop in their chest when they know they have been unkind, and a memory will not let them sleep. After I switched the drives, I put the original back where it had been so no one would notice anything missing. Small hands, small movements. I told myself I was being careful. I told myself I was giving them a chance to fix things. The truth can be a medicine, but medicine can sting. I walked back upstairs and sat on my bed. The house brightened with the morning light. I thought about what kindness looks like. I thought about how easy it is to forget that every person is a world of their own. People in my family had forgotten. Maybe they were tired. Maybe they were carrying small pains I did not know about. Maybe they thought being cruel on one afternoon would not hurt anyone very much. That is what most people tell themselves when they are unkind. I wanted them to know the cost. When people gathered for lunch, the mood was careful. My mom moved around slowly, filling plates. Her hands shook a little when she poured gravy, but she smiled like a soldier trying to look brave. Aunt Laura touched my dad's arm and asked if he wanted more stuffing. Tyler kept making jokes that were too loud. Rachel texted from a distance and kept it light, like she did not know the weather of our house. I watched them. I listened to the pauses. The silence had edges now. The slideshow would be replayed later for the larger family who could not come in the morning. They were planning another dinner with uncles and cousins and neighbors, the kind of party where people love to witness other people's small disasters. I knew they would not expect what I had put on the drive. I hoped for it and feared it at the same time. The hope was for truth. The fear was for how they would react. I stayed close to the room where the TV was. I pretended to help at the table, but really I was a guard watching a small game. Grandma called from the kitchen, asking where the cranberry sauce was. I handed it to her and smiled like everything was normal. Inside, I was bracing. When the time came, Aunt Laura dimmed the lights and clicked play. Everyone leaned in like bees around honey. People made quiet comments. The old slide showed babies and birthdays, and the room softened. Someone said, "Remember when Emily?" And they laughed politely. Then the slides went on. At first, they did not notice anything different. The pictures looked like the same family album. Then the images started to show things longer than a blink. There were messages on screen from group chats where family members had made jokes about someone else. There were photos from years ago where someone was clearly not the subject of a joke, but people had laughed at them behind their back. The room shifted. I watched my mom's hand press into a napkin. I watched Aunt Laura's smile twitch. I listened as someone at the back of the room said, "Hey, wait," and then stopped. The pictures moved faster now. Screenshots of private comments popped up, and my recording played soft in the background. At first, it was quiet, but the sound rose like water through a pipe. People started to look at each other. Faces that had been proud moments ago now had lines of worry. My cousin Tyler's foot tapped faster. My aunt's eyes filled with a heat I had not seen before. The recording had captured things they had said about other people, not just me. There were jokes about jobs and sweet lies about who paid for what, and whispers about secrets. It was small cruelty, the kind people call harmless. But seeing it on a screen with your own name near it made it heavy. The room smelled suddenly, like coffee and fear. Someone swallowed hard. My mother stood, and her face had gone pale. She looked around as if trying to find a place where the truth would not reach. Aunt Laura's hands found each other and squeezed. For a second, the silence was so thick it felt like a blanket. Then a voice from the back started to laugh, but it sounded strange, high and thin. Tyler laughed first, trying to make the situation smaller with noise. The laugh did not land. It felt sharp and brittle, and everyone heard it break. A few people chuckled nervously, but the sound faded like a lost animal. My dad went to the TV and reached to stop the slideshow. He fumbled for the remote and pressed pause. For a second, nothing moved except the little red light on the laptop. People were looking at him like he could fix the picture by pressing buttons. He could not. My mom moved to the couch and sat down hard. Her face was wet. She was not crying like someone losing something forever. She was crying the kind of bitter tears that come when you are shocked at your own hands. Aunt Laura looked at me, and then away. She did not say anything. Tyler had gone quiet. Rachel put her phone down and held it like a child with a toy. I felt my heart beat loud. I thought about stepping forward and explaining everything. I thought about telling them that I had switched the drives and that I had recorded the first show. I thought about saying I had done it because I wanted them to know what it felt like to be the target. I almost opened my mouth and then closed it. There was a moment of kindness left inside me. I wanted them to choose to be kind now that they saw what they had been. I wanted them to have that moment of shame and then do the good thing that heals. Aunt Laura finally spoke, voice small as a footstep. "Emily," she said. "Why would you?" "Because," I said, quiet and steady. "Because I wanted you to see." There it is, the truth in small letters. People leaned closer. My mom looked like a person who had been struck by a fact and had to sit down with it. There was an ache in her eyes that I did not want to enjoy. I wanted her to stop hurting and to say she was sorry.
She did not say it at first.
She looked at the ground like she had no words to pull from the air. Then she did something I did not expect. She stood up and walked to the TV. Her hands moved like someone trying to mend a tear in a shirt. She turned the laptop off and then on, and then off again. She looked at me as if trying to read my face for a choice. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, voice small.
"Because you were part of it," I said.
The truth landed and made a hollow sound in the room. "Because I heard you planning to make me cry." My mom's face changed. For a moment there was a young woman I remembered, the one who used to sing to me, and then she blinked and the older face came back. She shook her head like she could dislodge a fly. "We were joking," she said, and the words fell like brittle leaves. "Jokes that hurt," I said. "They are still hurt." There was a long pause. People shuffled. Someone at the table covered their mouth. Grandma started to cough like she had swallowed something wrong. A cousin whispered, "This is awkward." But it was not awkward in the funny way. It was heavy. I could have kept going. I could have called out other things. I could have pressed the recording button and played every harsh line they had ever said. But I did not. I wanted them to look at themselves and be better. I wanted them to pick up the pieces. Before anyone could respond, something happened that no one expected. A sudden, hard knock on the front door made everyone jump. The sound was big, the kind of knock that felt like a hand in your chest. It came again, louder. Someone in the doorway said, "Police," in a voice that was clear and sharp. The knock sounded like an arrival that would tear the house open. The room snapped into a new kind of silence. Forks clattered. Chairs scraped. My mom's face turned from pale to white. Aunt Laura's mouth made a small O. Tyler's shoulders rose. Josh looked at me like he had seen a shadow in daylight. My dad stood very still, as if bracing for something heavy. My stomach dropped. I had not planned for this. I had not wanted anyone else, especially not the police, to be involved. The knock on the door shook the room in a way that felt final. People moved toward the hall slowly, like they were being pulled by a tide. That is where Chapter 2 stops, right at the knock that changed everything. The house held its breath. The family who had once planned a cruel surprise now faced something they did not understand. I stood where I was, feeling the weight of what I had done and the unexpected weight of what had come to the door. The next moment would be loud and unknown, and it would not be something I could fully control. The knock came again, louder, sharper, like someone hitting the very bones of the house. Police! Open the door. Everyone froze. My dad looked at my mom. My mom looked at Aunt Laura. Aunt Laura looked at the floor, like she was searching for something she had dropped. Tyler swallowed hard. Josh clung to my sleeve, his little hand shaking. No one moved. You could feel the fear swimming around the room like thick fog. No one expected this. Not today. Not in front of the whole family. Not in the middle of a slideshow that was already tearing everyone apart. Finally, my dad stepped forward, slow and stiff like his legs were made of metal. He walked to the door, wiped his palms on his jeans, and opened it. 2 officers stood there. One tall, one short. Snowflakes clung to their jackets. Their breath showed in white clouds. The tall one looked inside the house with a serious, unreadable face. The short one held a small clipboard. "Good afternoon," the tall officer said. "We received a call." A call? A call? My mom shot me a quick look, the kind that said, "Did you do something?" But I shook my head. I hadn't called anyone. I hadn't gone that far. The officers stepped inside. They weren't angry, but their presence filled the whole living room like heavy furniture. "What's going on?" my dad asked, trying to sound calm. "We got a report," the short officer said. "A report of a disturbance." Disturbance. Aunt Laura repeated too fast, too high. "What kind of disturbance?" "We're just having Christmas dinner." The officer nodded slowly, scanning the room. The half-finished plates, the dimmed lights, the frozen slideshow on the TV screen, the worried faces. "We just need to ask a few questions," the tall officer said. "We were told there might be a situation involving a minor." My heart dropped. Everyone looked at me. Everyone. My breath caught. My ears buzzed. The blood in my body felt like it rushed to my face and then ran straight out of it. Mom stepped forward quickly. "No, no, no. There's no situation. Everything is fine. It's just a misunderstanding." But the officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, we still need to ask." The room felt like it was shrinking. My chest hurt. I could feel every eyeball in that room glued to me like I was some kind of dangerous spark. "Are you Emily Turner?" the officer asked me gently. I nodded. "Emily," he said. "Are you safe here?"
The whole room gasped.
My mom let out a sound that wasn't a word, more like a broken gasp mixed with shock. My aunt covered her mouth. My dad looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. I'm fine," I said quickly. "I'm safe." The officer studied my face. "We received a call that a family member might be in emotional danger." Emotional danger. I closed my eyes for a second. Rachel. It had to be Rachel. She had been on the phone earlier. She had heard tension. She might have assumed something worse was happening. "Emily," the officer said again, gently, "someone was concerned for you. Would you like to step outside and speak privately?" Everyone stared at me. That pressure, heavy, crushing, made my stomach twist. I stood slowly. My mom tried to reach for me, but I moved past her. I followed the officers outside into the cold. The winter wind slapped my face. The air tasted like metal. We stood on the porch. Snowflakes drifted down quietly. Christmas lights blinked softly across the street. Everything looked normal outside, peaceful even, like the world had no idea what was exploding inside her house. The officer spoke first. "We're not here to cause trouble," he said softly. "We're here to make sure you're okay." The words hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't heard someone worry about me in a long time. I nodded slowly. "I'm okay." "Really? Did someone hurt you?" he asked.
No.
Is someone planning to hurt you? I looked down at my gloves. My heart hurt for reasons I couldn't put into words. Not physically.
No.
The officer studied me carefully. Do you feel safe in your home? I hesitated. A long, slow hesitation. A cloud of my breath floated in the air. Sometimes, I said honestly. Sometimes I don't feel wanted. Or respected. Or protected. The officer's jaw flexed. He exchanged a look with his partner. That matters too, he said gently. But it's not something we can arrest anyone for. We just needed to make sure you weren't in danger. I understand. We're going to step inside again, he said. We'll explain that you're okay. But Emily, if anything changes, you can reach out to us anytime. All right? Something warm pricked the back of my eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of being acknowledged, maybe.
Seen.
For the first time in a long time. Thank you, I whispered. We walked back inside. The house felt even smaller now. Everyone stared. The officers explained that someone had called with concern, but everything was fine. No one was in trouble.
But now?
The air was different. Shifted. Bent. My mom's face was pink with embarrassment. My aunt looked like she wanted to melt into the carpet. Tyler sat stiff as stone. Grandma murmured a prayer under her breath. When the officers left, the door shut behind them with a soft thud, but the sound echoed like thunder. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, my mom turned toward me. This, she whispered, voice cracking. This is humiliating. Humiliating. Humiliating? Of all the words. Of all the emotions. She chose that one. A hot spark lit inside my chest. But you planning to embarrass me in front of the whole family wasn't humiliating? I asked quietly. She flinched. Everyone flinched. My dad held up his hands, trying to calm the room. Let's take a breath. No, my mom said suddenly. She stood straight, almost rigid. Her eyes were shiny. Her breathing was uneven.
She pointed at me.
What you did today was wrong, Emily. I froze. I could not believe she said that. Aunt Laura nodded slowly, lips tight. You humiliated the family. I laughed. I actually laughed. It slipped out a small, sharp laugh I couldn't stop. I humiliated the family? I said. Me? My voice cracked in the middle. You planned a whole slideshow to make fun of me. You wanted people to laugh at me. You took private things. You made me a joke in my own home. You treated me like I wasn't even a person. My mom's face fell, but I didn't stop. You hurt me, and you wanted me to smile through it. You wanted me to sit there and take it like it was normal. Silence. Then I lowered my voice. I didn't humiliate the family. I showed the family who they really are. That sentence cut the air in half. Aunt Laura's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tyler blinked like he couldn't understand how things had turned on him so fast. My dad stared at me with something that wasn't anger, maybe fear, maybe regret. What did you do, Emily? My mom asked, voice trembling. I took a breath. Then another. I gave you a mirror, I said simply. And you didn't like what you saw. She looked like she had been slapped. Her hand flew to her mouth. But I wasn't finished. You haven't even seen the worst part yet. Everyone's heads snapped up. Aunt Laura frowned. What do you mean, the worst part? I stared straight at her and then at my mom. My voice stayed steady. Before the officers came, I said, the slideshow didn't reach the end. Aunt Laura's face drained of all color. My mom swayed like she might faint. What's at the end? My mom whispered. I didn't blink. A message, I said slowly. Something everyone in this family needs to hear. What message? Tyler asked, voice shaking. I stepped back toward the TV, toward the laptop, toward the flash drive that held the truth. Every eye in the room followed me. My hand hovered above the remote. If you want to know, I said softly, I can play it. The room went silent in an instant. Not a breath, not a heartbeat, just frozen fear. I don't think that's a good idea, Aunt Laura whispered. My mom shook her head slowly. Emily, what did you put on that drive? I didn't answer. I just lifted the remote. My thumb hovered over the play button. Everyone stared like they were watching the beginning of a bomb countdown. And then, just before I pressed it, a new loud knock came from the door. Not police. Not neighbors. A different sound. A sneaky sound. A familiar sound. 3 soft taps. Then a pause. Then 2 more.
Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap.
My stomach flipped. I knew that knock. I knew it all the way to my bones. It was the knock of someone who should not be here. Someone who did not belong. Someone who would break the next part of the story wide open. I lowered the remote slowly. Everyone turned toward the door. My mom's face tightened. My dad stiffened. Aunt Laura whispered, "No, they can't be." Josh hid behind me. The tapping came again.
Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap.
I felt cold all over. The door opened. And that's where Chapter 3 ends. At the moment the person behind that door stepped inside, the person who would change everything, tear open old secrets, and make the next part of this story explode. The door creaked open slowly, like it was scared of whatever waited on the other side. Cold air rushed in. Snowflakes swirled onto the rug. The family leaned forward without meaning to, pulled by dread, pulled by curiosity, pulled by the kind of fear you can feel in your teeth. Then the person stepped inside, and the entire room broke. It was my half-sister, Rachel. The same Rachel who hadn't visited in 2 years. The same Rachel who ran away from home the night she turned 18. The same Rachel whose name my mother rarely said out loud anymore, and when she did, it sounded like a bruise. Rachel closed the door behind her gently. Her hair was tucked into a knitted cap, and her cheeks were pink from the cold. She didn't look angry. She didn't look excited. She looked determined. My mom's knees almost buckled. Rachel," she whispered. "What are you doing here?" Rachel took off her gloves calmly. "I came home." Nobody breathed. She looked around the room slowly, letting her eyes land on each person like she was counting sins. Then she saw me, and she smiled, a small, tired smile that wasn't happy but wasn't angry either. "Hey, she said softly. "I got your message." My heart jumped. My message. Rachel nodded. The voice note. The entire room stiffened. My mom shook her head fast. "What voice note?" Rachel turned to her unblinking. "The one Emily sent. The one where she told me everything." Aunt Laura gasped. Tyler muttered something under his breath. My dad's face felt like a wall collapsing. But I stared at Rachel, surprised. Because I never sent any voice note.
Not one.
The realization hit me in the chest like a dropped stone. Rachel had been watching all along, from a distance. She must have guessed something was wrong when Mom kept calling earlier. Maybe she checked in on the family chat. Maybe someone slipped up. Maybe she just knew Mom too well. Rachel didn't give me a chance to question it. She stepped deeper into the room. "I knew something was off," she said quietly. "So I drove all night." My mom looked like she was drowning. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "Not today." Rachel raised an eyebrow.
"Why?"
"Because you plan to humiliate Emily the way you used to humiliate me." Silence stabbed the air. Mom's lips trembled. "That is not, Rachel. That was never." "Don't lie," Rachel said. Not loud. Not angry. Just honest. "Not this time." Aunt Laura looked away. Tyler stared at the floor. Grandma folded her hands and prayed silently. And then, quietly but clearly, Rachel said a sentence that cracked my mother open. "You're doing to Emily exactly what you did to me." My mom's face went pale. She shook her head, but her eyes were already filling with tears. "Rachel, please. Don't do this." "I have to," Rachel said. "Because she deserves to know she's not crazy." I felt something tighten in my chest. A knot I'd been holding for years. Rachel walked toward me and gently squeezed my shoulder. "You're not crazy," she whispered. "And you're not wrong." My eyes burned. And the family? They went silent and still, like statues. Because Rachel had always been the secret they never talked about. The wound everyone pretended wasn't bleeding. The name that made conversations freeze. Now she was standing in the middle of the living room, alive, calm, unshakable, forcing everyone to look at what they'd tried to bury. My mom finally spoke, voice cracking. "Rachel, please. We're trying to have a decent Christmas." "Christmas?" Rachel repeated in a voice full of bitterness. "You ruined Christmas when you made your own daughter the holiday entertainment." Mom flinched. Dad rubbed his forehead like a man who'd been carrying guilt for too long. Rachel took a breath and looked at the frozen slideshow still glowing on the TV screen. Then she turned back to me. "You didn't finish it," she said. "I know." I held up the remote. I was going to. I was ready. The family was not. Rachel nodded once. "Then I think you should." Mom panicked. "No, you don't understand," she stammered. "Rachel, please don't let her." But Rachel folded her arms. "She deserves the truth." I looked at the remote. My thumb hovered. Everyone stared like the moment itself could explode. And then, I pressed play. The slideshow resumed. But now the pictures weren't of me. They were of conversations. Screenshots.
Group chats.
Private messages. Little circles with people's faces next to words they never thought anyone would see again. Whispers about cousins. Laughing at grandma's memory issues. Jokes about how dad had lost his spark. Comments about Tyler's girlfriend. Slips of truth they assumed would disappear in the dark. Every slide was a light shining on things hidden. The room grew tighter, hotter, more breathless. Then the audio kicked in. My recording. Their voices, laughing at me. Their whispers, plotting. Their comments, meaner than they remembered saying. Their tone, cruel in a way that sounded worse when played back. My mother covered her mouth. Aunt Laura cried silently. Tyler muttered, "Oh my God." My dad sat down like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. But then, the slideshow reached the final slide. Rachel tensed. Aunt Laura grabbed my uncle's arm. My mom whispered, "Stop it, stop it, stop it, please stop." But the slide wouldn't stop. Black screen. White text. 5 simple words. This is who we became. Silence.
Deep.
Heavy. Painful. Then the screen changed again. One final message appeared. On the bottom of the screen, tiny but clear. "It doesn't have to stay this way." My mom burst into tears. And not the angry, embarrassed tears she had cried earlier. Real ones. Painful ones. Her whole body folded forward like she was caught in a wave. My dad went to her, but she pushed him away, not in anger, but because she could not hold her own shame. Aunt Laura wiped her eyes. 2 cousins walked out quietly. Tyler stared at the TV like it had shown him a ghost. Rachel let out a shaky breath. I felt my heart pounding so loud it echoed in my ears. Then, Mom finally looked up at me. Her face was red, wet, trembling. Her voice barely came out. "Emily." I didn't realize how far we had gone. I didn't speak. I couldn't trust my voice. She pressed her shaking hands to her chest. "I don't know why we acted that way. I don't know why we thought it was funny. I don't know why. I hurt you." Her words trembled like thin ice. "I'm so ashamed," she whispered. I swallowed. The anger inside me softened, just a little. Not forgiven. Not forgotten. But softened. Dad reached for her hand. She let him hold it. Then she turned to Rachel with eyes full of fear. "And you," she whispered. "I chased you away." Rachel crossed her arms, but her voice softened too. "You didn't chase me," she said. "I left because I didn't want Emily to grow up the way I did." Mom cried harder. Rachel stepped closer. But she still did until today. I stared at the words on the screen again. It doesn't have to stay this way. My mom walked toward me slowly, like she was approaching something fragile. Her hands shook so badly, she had to close them into fists. When she reached me, she stopped. She looked into my eyes and whispered, "I don't know if you can forgive me, but I'm ready to try to fix this if you'll let me." Her voice cracked on the last word. My throat tightened. The family stood in total silence, waiting, watching, holding their breath. But before I could answer, something unexpected happened. The front door swung open again.
Hard.
Cold air blasted in. Everyone jumped. A figure stepped inside. Fast, breathless, panicked. And the moment I saw them, my stomach dropped. Because this person had information. This person knew something the rest of them didn't. Something that would flip everything upside down. Something that would send the story into its next storm. The figure slammed the door behind them and said the words that froze the whole room. "Emily, you need to come with me."
Now.
And that. The door slammed so hard the wreath fell crooked. Everyone jumped. My heart lurched. My breath caught. I blinked fast, trying to make sense of the figure standing in the doorway. It was Mr. Harris, our next-door neighbor. A quiet, older man with silver hair and soft eyes. The kind of person who shoveled everyone's sidewalk without being asked. Except now, he looked terrified. His scarf was twisted. Snow clung to his coat. His chest rose and felt like he'd been running. "Emily," he said again, voice shaking. "You need to come with me."
Now.
The whole room went silent. My mom stepped forward. "What's wrong? What happened?" But Mr. Harris's eyes never left mine. He looked guilty, afraid, and urgent in a way I had never seen before. I didn't know who else to come to," he said. "But it's about your grandmother."
Grandma.
My stomach dropped. My legs trembled. "What about her?" I asked, my voice tiny. Mr. Harris swallowed. "She's at my house." Everyone froze. He continued, words tumbling out fast. "She showed up at my door an hour ago. She was crying, confused, shaking. She said she didn't want to go to your house. Said she was scared."
Scared.
The word hit the room like shattering glass. My mom gasped. Aunt Laura grabbed the arm of the couch. My dad's face drained of color. "She kept saying she forgot something important," Mr. Harris went on. "Something she wanted to tell someone. Something about making things right." Everyone stared at him. Then he said the sentence that flipped the entire mood upside down. "She said she didn't want to witness what you were going to do to Emily." Silence. Cold, suffocating silence. My mom's face twisted in shock. Her lips parted. Her chest rose and fell too fast. "What?" she whispered. "What do you mean?" Mr. Harris shook his head sadly. "She told me you all planned something. Something to embarrass her. Something to break her spirit." His voice cracked. "And she said she couldn't watch that happen to another girl in this family." Aunt Laura choked on a breath. Tyler covered his mouth. Rachel closed her eyes like she already knew. I felt the world sway under my feet. My mom whispered, "Mom said that?" Mr. Harris nodded. She kept repeating it. Over and over. "Not again. Not Emily. Not another one." My chest tightened. Rachel stepped closer to me. Mom sank onto the couch like her legs gave out. Then Mr. Harris turned to me again. "She wants to talk to you," he said gently. "Only you." My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. My dad grabbed his jacket. "We'll all go." "No," Mr. Harris said softly. "She asked for Emily. Just Emily." The room stiffened. My mom tried to stand. "But I need to see her." "She was very clear," Mr. Harris said, voice firm. "She said Emily is the only one she trusts right now." That sentence hit Mom like a slap. Her knees buckled. Her face twisted with guilt. Rachel looked at me with something like pride, or maybe sorrow in her eyes. I didn't waste time. I grabbed my coat. I followed Mr. Harris into the cold. The snow bit at my cheeks. The world was quiet except for the crunch of our boots. His porch light glowed a warm yellow. When we stepped inside, the heat hit me like a blanket. And there she was.
Grandma.
Sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes red from crying, hands trembling as she turned slowly toward me. When she saw me, her face softened. "Emily," she whispered. "My brave girl." I felt tears burn behind my eyes before I even spoke. "Grandma," I whispered. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "I am now." I sat beside her. She took my hand in both of hers, gentle, warm, shaking. "I remembered something today," she said, her voice small but steady. "Something I tried to forget, because it hurt too much. I stayed silent. She squeezed my hand tighter. When your mother was a teenager, Grandma whispered. She was bright.
Soft. Kind.
But our family… She paused. Pain flickered in her eyes. We were cruel without knowing it. I swallowed hard. She was the joke, Grandma continued. They made fun of her weight, her clothes, her grades, her dreams. I didn't stop it. Her voice broke. I told myself it was all harmless.
Just teasing.
Just jokes. Her voice cracked again. I didn't realize I was teaching her that hurting people is normal. My chest tightened painfully. I thought she would grow out of it, Grandma whispered. But she didn't. She passed it down. And now it's hurting you. A tear rolled down her cheek. And I couldn't let that happen. Not again. My breath hitched. Gran, I don't want to make Mom look like a villain, I said softly. She shook her head. She isn't a villain, she whispered. She's a hurt child who grew into a hurt adult. And hurt adults hurt people when no one stops the cycle. Silence. Heavy.
Sad. Real.
Emily, Grandma said, her voice firmer now. You did something today. Something strong. Something brave. You held up a mirror. I blinked fast, my throat tight. And sometimes, she added, a mirror is the only thing that can save a family. I didn't realize I was crying until she reached up and wiped my cheek. Do you hate them? I asked in a shaking voice. She shook her head.
No.
I regret us. I leaned into her gently, and she held me like she was afraid to break me. She smelled like cinnamon and old books. Safe.
Soft. Warm.
When she pulled back, her eyes held a clarity I hadn't seen in years. Before anything else, she said softly, you need to go home. Face them. Listen. Let them cry. Let them apologize. I looked down. Do you think they will? I whispered. She smiled, a small, sad smile. Guilt makes people either destroy themselves or rebuild themselves. She cupped my cheek. And I believe your family wants to rebuild. I nodded slowly. Grandma squeezed my hand. And Emily? Yes. Be open to healing, she whispered. Not for them. For you. I let those words sink deep into my heart. Then I stood. Let's go home, I said. Mr. Harris drove us back. The windows fogged with quiet breaths. The house glowed warm against the winter dark. When I stepped inside, everyone stopped and stared at me. My mom rushed forward, tears streaming. She fell to her knees in front of me. Emily, I am so sorry, she sobbed. I hurt you. I failed you. I failed Rachel. I failed myself. I promise you, I will get help. I will change. Please, please don't give up on me. Her voice shook so hard, she had to grip my hands to stay steady. Dad stood behind her with tears in his eyes. Aunt Laura cried quietly. Tyler stared at the floor. Rachel's eyes shined with something warm. And I felt something inside me shift. Not forgiveness yet,
but the start of it.
I knelt down too, so we were eye level. And I said softly, I'm willing to try it if you are. My mom broke into a sob that sounded like years of hurt finally leaving her body. Dad pulled us into a hug. Rachel wrapped her arms around us. Aunt Laura joined slowly. Even Tyler came forward. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't magic. It wasn't instantly healed. But it was honest.
For the first time in years.
And that was enough. Later that night, after everyone talked and cried and listened and apologized, I stepped outside into the cold. The snow fell quiet and soft. Rachel came to stand beside me. You okay? She asked. I nodded.
Yeah.
I think so. She nudged me with her shoulder. You did something huge today. I breathed in the cold air. Maybe we all did, I said. Rachel smiled. And for the first time in a long time, Christmas didn't feel like a stage. It felt like a beginning. A real one. A human one. A kinder one.